So what we would have expected was an investigation to be instituted before that matter was cleared. That's what we say, call others to equity with clean hands. So when we say corruption, yes, you can pursue GBM, but pursue even those that are procuring fertilizer at a high price. That's how it should be. Then we should accept and say, yes, this is a genuine fight against corruption. So we are ready to support the government if they stop bringing double standards in the fight against corruption.
Thank you. Thank you. I call Honorable Kangombe to come and deal with some issues. Just to close on what Honorable Kafai was saying, maybe the question is, we've all just come back from our constituencies, and members of the public are asking, we don't want AFRICOM. So in whose interest is government trying to establish that AFRICOM? Because Zambians have just said no. And you are the Zambians. Honorable Kangombe.
Thank you very much, Leader of Opposition. There's an urgent issue that I thought needed to be brought to the attention of the public relating to the failure by the current government to continue with the trajectory of infrastructure development. Now, Leader of Opposition, you are aware that all members of parliament, including those from the ruling party, have been asking questions to government officials. When is this clinic going to be built? When is this road going to be built? Honorable Mtachalo was complaining about a bridge in his constituency, and I'm taking advantage of the question I raised regarding water in my constituency to deal with a bigger problem which we've noticed in the current government. The problem that we've noticed with the current government is that they have no intentions to invest in infrastructure. They are not interested in infrastructure, yet they are enjoying the infrastructure that we left. And Leader of Opposition, you must be concerned, as I am, that there's no investment, there's no project that has taken place since government changed in August. There's no school which has been built. There's no bus station which has been constructed. There's no new third road in Zambia, 9 months down the line. Now, when we raise questions in Parliament, whether it's from Kamfinsa, whether it's Honorable Maranji from Kwacha, whether it's Honorable Paulo Chewe from Lubansenshi, the interest is basically to continue on the trajectory of providing infrastructure. Now, when a country is developing, whether it's the last 10 years, last 15 years, there's always this desire that more schools should be built, more hospitals should be built, because the population is increasing. So in Parliament, where we normally sit, we will raise questions and hoping that we will get answers from ministers on issues to do with public infrastructure, water, roads, schools. Unfortunately, we do not seem to get the correct responses. And the response normally is as and when funds are available. Now, there's been an excuse that we can use CDF to do everything. CDF is not new. CDF was established in 1995. That time it was a very small amount of money. Every 5 years, the amount has been increased, but you can't use CDF for public infrastructure, which requires millions of dollars. What we expect to get as responses from the current government, especially when we raise issues to do with water in our constituencies, we want to see commitment. There is no commitment. And I'm sure the people of Zambia now are able to judge in terms of our record as far as infrastructure development is concerned. When we raise issues, we are not politicizing anything. We believe Zambia was on a trajectory. And that trajectory, unfortunately, has not continued. So, Leader of Opposition, I thought there's an issue of public interest that our colleagues from the media needed to pick up. You can do your own investigations. You can go to any ministry, ask them if they are doing any new road, ask them if they are doing any new bridge in Zambia. They will tell you as and when funds are available. It's not an accurate answer because then it does not give the assurance to our people. So I thought this matter needed to be highlighted We have an opportunity, of course, to raise some of these issues in Parliament. Unfortunately, we've not gotten the right responses, and we thought we could use this platform to remind the Zambians that we are not seeing the right commitment from our colleagues in as far as public infrastructure is concerned. I know some people will say, well, there was so much that was done, so it's no longer a priority. I think with an increase in population, we need new pipes of water, we need new roads, we need public infrastructure to continue improving. I beg to submit Leader of Opposition.
Thank you so much, Honorable. I will soon ask Honorable Malanje to just add, but maybe to just comment further on what Honorable Kangombe has said. The reason why we are all concerned about lumping everything in the CDF, many may not even know that in terms of percentage, the CDF in its totality is only 2.3% of the budget. So you can imagine that all that excitement that we've had, all of us, is just within 2.3%. You know, so the moment you come to that realization, then you begin to ask the difficult questions. How can we be so excited on 2.3%? Where is the 97.7%, and how is it being employed? So some of the questions that we're asking in Parliament are in that 97%, which is not being talked about. Even if CDF was to be implemented 100%, properly done, finished, is 2.3% of the budget. Now, 9 months, we are 6 months into the budget. We have not even implemented this 2.3%. So other people have come up to ask for us to rate the EPND. I'm saying, what is there to rate? Because if we haven't even performed in the 2.3%, how are we going to rate them? So that remains a very difficult question for us to answer. Yeah. Yes, sir.
With the indulgence of the Leader of Opposition, can I just supplement, I think, Honorable Kangombe's comment on infrastructure development. I think that in our country, this problem of infrastructure is a key one, and this is, in my own view, this is the reason why we have so much unemployment. And I think the wisdom in the PF government was that we needed to expand the environmental capacity to absorb these joblessness issues. When you don't have capital, you cannot employ people. When you look at the agents of production that exist, economists will tell you it's land, human capital, as well as the actual capital and entrepreneurship. Now, in this country, we already have enough land, we already have human capital, but what we don't have is this capital, which we need to either procure or construct. Now, if you stop constructing, we are going to go into a situation where there's literally nowhere you can put people to actually render services. So the UPND government must not think that PF constructed everything. There's nothing more to construct. They need to find room to create more capital by way of constructing capital so that our people can have a chance to be employed. Thank you.
Okay, Honorable Malanje, then find Honorable Malanje.
Thank you. I'll just briefly continue from where Honorable Kampiombo left. It seems it has become a hallmark of our colleague in government now to call people who were in the previous government thieves. Must say it's quite provocative speculation, because as a government, it is in their interest to make sure that each and every citizen is given the respect that the situation of calling each and every person that was in the previous government a thief does not go well with even outsiders. Because at the end of the day, it is in the interest of even the head of state, the government, to be happy that people who were excluded have done any malpractice whilst in government are taken to court. And that's why we have our independent judiciary from executive. Now, if officials that are in government pronounce theft from people that have not been even been taken to court, I think we are abusing our office, because I've seen some government officials even say it on platforms, say these thieves. You cannot label somebody a thief who has not been taken to the courts of law. And I think it will only be in order that our colleagues in government refrain from that approach, because at the end of the day, once these people who they claim to be thieves are acquitted, it will be a big task for them to go around the country to say, we are sincerely sorry, these people were not thieves. We are all Zambians. At the end of the day, we must look at what the people that gave us mandate, whether at parliamentary level or the government now, we must look at the interest of the people that gave us mandate, as opposed to burning much more of our energy to point fingers at people that were in the government before. The blame game does not pay. It is time now we look at how we're going to create jobs from all three wings. It is now time that we're going to see how we're going to improve infrastructure of our country. You very well know that when population is growing, there is an automatic dictate for improvement and increment of infrastructure in our country. And it would only be prudent that the government tries to bring up unity in the country, as opposed to finger pointing, having blame game as a chorus in their song. I submit.
Thank you very much, Honorable Malanji. May I take this opportunity to call upon Chairman One, Honorable Member for Chairman, to speak to us.
Thank you, Leader of Opposition and Whip, and indeed our fourth estate, the media. I have, I think, three issues to comment on. The first one has to do with the, it's a write on what Honorable Malanji had just said. You've heard our colleagues accusing the previous government that it supplied or received services which in actual sense were never supplied to the government, but money was paid. Would like to also question, I'm sure you've heard what happened just a few days ago, where Mahogany Air received in excess of this $200,000, $275,000, which was meant to ferry our football fans to a football tournament in West Africa. We are told that Mahogany did not render that service. We want to find out from the New Dawn government, particularly the Minister for Sports, what really happened. Who contracted Mahogany Air? Was the public tender followed? These are issues that our colleagues speak on the daily basis. How was that arrangement arrived at? Where is the money? Will the money be refunded? If not, who will be responsible? So we need answers from the Minister of Sports. Another important point, a number of us being rural members of parliament has to do with energy, electricity in particular. You know, the New Dawn government, I'm sure you are all aware, has made a decision which will affect all of us, including you as journalists. The Patriotic Front government decided to reduce connection fees, realizing from the fact that we knew that the country in terms of deforestation was on a very dangerous trajectory. So the measures that the government then took was to make electricity available to people in rural areas. That is the reason the entire of Northwestern province, as we speak, almost all the districts there are connected to the national grid. It is the PF that did that. these projects had actually continued. I'll give an example. In Chama, where I come from, the transmission line was constructed from Chipata to Chama. Not only that, another 11 kVA was also constructed going into rural communities so that our people can have access to electricity. If anything, electricity is the engine for any economic development. You cannot talk of development if you do not have a reliable source of energy. The difference between us and rural communities is electricity. That's a fact. Our colleagues are in darkness, even in our own cities where we are, if it has been plunged into darkness, those of us who come from rural areas, immediate memories of rural communities come into mind. The new Dawn government has increased connection fees. PF government reduced connection fees for those of us who live in high density areas. For example, if you live in Kanyama, you live in Mtendele like me, you live in Garden, you are supposed to pay 700 kwacha. The idea behind that was to enable our communities, to enable our poor people to afford to connect to electricity. Those of us who come from medium density areas, I'll give an example, are areas like Chilenje, these planned settlements. We are supposed to pay 2,500. Check these rates. Again, the idea was the government had looked at the capacity of the people who live in those areas to pay for electricity. Low density areas, those who maybe resides in areas like Kaplonga, Woodlands, we are paying in the range of 4,000 to 5,000 kwacha as connection fees. But what has this government done? They have even introduced the Ministry for Green Economy, at the same time contradicting it. Because if people cannot connect to electricity, their first option will be charcoal. They've increased connection fees in their proposals. Check with ERB. Those who are paying 750 or less than 800 for connection, you'll be paying 7,000 plus. Those of you who are supposed to be paying 2,500, you've been increased to 13,000. Those that are supposed to pay 5,000, you are proposed, they've proposed to increase to almost, is it 18 to 20,000? Those are commercial rates. Now the question we're asking, whose electricity are you generating? Because most of Zambians, especially those who reside in rural communities, where are they going to get 7,000, 13,000 to have access to electricity? So we are telling them, we are actually requesting them to reconsider this decision. Because as a country, we need much of our population to have access to electricity. Colleagues, you can agree with me, most of us in Zambia, we do not have a highly developed mortgage system. We build according to how we earn our income. Why should electricity become an impediment for us to access the much needed services that come with one having connected to energy? The question that we are asking, why are you punishing Zambians? When a company like CEC, I want to tell you, Zambians, that ZESCO produces, in terms of megawatts, I'll give an example. Kariba is producing about 400 plus, because we share that with Zimbabwe. We have greenfield, reliable power plants. That is a Kafue. Now we have Kafue Lower, where the PF government invested heavily. That together is producing in excess of about 300 kilowatts. We also have Itej, which was expanded. It has also brought power on the national grid. But here is the catch. Are you aware that 80% of this power which is produced by ZESCO is consumed by the mines? 80%. These are true statistics. Are consumed by the mines. As residential use as well as other commercial use, we only consume 20%. Are you aware that out of that 80%, 60% of it cannot be supplied directly by ZESCO to the mines? It has to pass through CEC. That is the reason why the previous government introduced a bill, electricity bill, which made transmission lines and other medium of transmission of power as common carriers, so that ZESCO should be able to supply electricity directly to the mines. That is the reason why the previous government delayed to actualize the bulk supply agreement between ZESCO and CEC, so that ZESCO should be able to supply directly to the mines, so that they make the money that they need to take care of the backlog, because they claim that they have backlog as ZESCO in terms of connections. For you and I, poor Zambians, what have they done? As we speak, they are quickly signing the bulk supply agreement with the CEC. We expect private companies that are investing in the energy sector to also invest in generation. Let the CEC set up power plants. We have the Patoka Devil's Eye Gorges, which needs to be developed. Let them tap, Northern Circuit, they can tap into the energy potential and invest in the generation, rather than them just transmitting money, power to the mines and rip off Zambians. These connection fees, I want to challenge the ZESCO itself and the New Dawn government. When you and I, because the argument that they are putting forward is that the cost of buying conductors, the cost of buying poles has gone up. Colleagues, when you pay these exorbitant fees, does the conductors or the cables that ZESCO put on your premises become yours? The answer is no, that becomes ZESCO property. Why should a Zambian, you and I, buy conductors for ZESCO? In addition, you start paying for electricity.
With new tariffs, actually.
With new tariffs, which they are likely also to increase, the way they've increased on fuel. So we want to call on President Hakainde Hichilema to sit down with his advisors, that as Zambians, as opposition MPs, we are saying no to these increased connection fees. Instead, let ZESCO charge more the power that they are supplying through CEC. I'll tell you that CEC is getting not less than, this is fact, another fact, $10 million per month from KCM as fees for supply of electricity. These are facts, go and check. If the money that CEC is getting from Mopani or KCM is allowed to be made by ZESCO, can they not take care of the backlog in terms of connections? The answer is they can. So we want our colleagues to do things different from what PF probably was doing. That is what the Zambian people voted them into power for, is for them to do things different. So far, I can assure you, what we have seen is the opposite of what they promised. So please, we are saying no to these new proposed connection fees. Can you increase fees to do with the mines, not the poor Zambians? ZESCO Don't allow Zambians to buy conductors and poles for you, to buy emitters for you. Do that from the money that you are making through already high fees, which the Zambian people are paying for electricity. This is what I wanted to submit to the Leader of the Opposition and Chief Whip.
Thank you very much. May I invite Honorable Kapianga to also say something? Malema? No, it's okay. You'll be very brief.
Thank you so much, Leader of Opposition, and thank you, the media, for your presence. I think mine is a very simple issue. This morning I raised a very important issue with one of the Vice President regarding the issue of pay rights. On the 17th May, the Swedish and Finnish embassies, through the LGBTQ flags, that is the rainbow flags that they are princes, against Article 20 of the Vienna Convention, which only allows them to fly the flags of their countries on those buildings and their vehicles. Then His Excellency the President stated the government position on the matter later on. But 2 days later, a human rights activist by the name of Laura Mead appeared on a national television, that is ZNBC, National Watch Program, and propagated her opinions of the country not jailing people for engaging in gay activities. This is a person that has been nominated for appointment as a commission under Human Rights Commission. So from our side, we've been wondering whether she's been appointed to go and champion that agenda there, because she did that against the position of His Excellency the President. So we have been wondering from our end. And of course, as we all know, that is against, first and foremost, our laws as a country, and also our culture as a nation. And of course, it's an abomination for me, for instance, to go and marry Honorable Munia's. So I would like to appeal to the Zambian people to follow this matter with keen interest, more especially the church, the civil society organizations, and other stakeholders. The other issue is that I'm coming from a rural constituency, which is in Pika, where our economic backbone is farming. The people there are very, very anxious to hear from government what will be the floor price for maize this year. Of course, they were promised to say they would be buying a bag of fertilizer at 500 kwacha if they formed government, and 250, and they are formed government. So the people there are waiting for that price of 250 as the floor price for this year. So we also appeal to government that our farmers outside across the country, just not in Pika, they are waiting for that good price of maize. Thank you so much.
Dear colleagues, I think we have had enough on the plate. So it also relieves us, because you know you are looking for us, asking one question. I think let's have this structured engagement, so that the next engagement we can allow you to ask questions as well, where you need points of clarification. Mine is just now to invite the Leader of Opposition, but don't forget that the cost of living will be beyond all of us, including yourselves, because the salaries that you get are limited for this year. There's no employer who's going to increase anyone's salary this year, but your cost of your cost of food basket will be going up every other month. Within the enclosed, it means the prices of fuel, which is now coming in finished products, will not be controlled by government. So there's no government that doesn't control issues of fuel. The SI we left, which gave cushion in terms of duties that are paid on fuel, is expiring this month. They just extended it from December to June. We were waiting to see if they're extending it, but even then, it won't help because when we had the Indian, you could import crude oil for about 3 months to 4 months. Meaning, when you start refining, the prices will remain constant because you would have paid the same amount for crude, which is pumped through Tazama, 1,700 kilometers into Indian. And I don't know about Kangombe because, and other people on the Copper Belt. The heavy fuel which was coming out of Indeni to go to in dollar energy, which was churning out 100 megawatts of power, is now shut. So the fate of workers for Tazama is not known. 300 plus workers of Indeni are redundant. So are the workers at Copper Belt dollar energy. So now these are the job creations I think people were promised. Privatization, phase 2. I don't know if it's phase 3, which people feared has commenced. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. In closing, I want to say that some of the issues that have been raised, especially under the Ministry of Energy, the energy sector, are very serious indeed. As many of you know, I once served as the chairman for the Energy Regulation Board, before I came into political life. And some of the measures were put in place were to do away with the bulk supply agreement so that, ZESCO can supply directly to the mines and be able to resolve most of these battles. We are surprised that our colleagues have gone back there so that the Zambians continue to pay heavily. So this is something that is of concern to us. Many of you must have heard the question that was posed by one PND member on FTJ to our honored the Vice President. And I'm sure you're all shocked that there was no satisfactory answer coming from that. I want all of you to look forward to the report. We'll be debating that report hopefully in the coming week, where that position has been clarified. All the stories that you've been hearing about FTJ will now come in a report so that you are very clear. Stories that are told on the floor of the House of works that were paid for, roads that were paid for and not executed are not true. Our procurement laws are very clear. If at all a contractor is given a contract to construct a road and he applies for advance payment, he is only given advance payment against a bond. He also supplies a performance bond. In the case of failure to perform, that bond is cashed. In case he was given any money, that bond is also cashed. So take it here and now that there is no time when government is ever exposed on these contracts. So nobody should come to you and say, we can't do this because contractors were paid and they went away. That is not true. Secondly, there's been a story from Ministry of Local Government that PF contracted works which government can only pay for after 40 years. But I'm surprised as the media, you've let that go. The question to ask is, assuming that statement is correct, does it mean that the jobs that were contracted by the PF up to this end, it will take the UPND 40 years to do similar work? Is that what they're saying? So you must be worried. Most of these rural areas still need feeder roads. But the UPND is saying, to the extent that the PF contracted, it will take them 40 years. So meaning, for them to do what the PF did in that period, it will take them 40 years. But the media is quiet. You have to take them to task. Are they saying that it is not in their plans, it will not be in their plans in this lifetime to do any such jobs because it takes 40 years? So those are some of the issues that we need to clarify. So take interest in this session. This is a report session where I will be able to clarify most of these stories that have been fed over this period of time. May I thank each and every one of you for having taken time to come, and also say that look forward to this time every Friday where we'll clarify matters on the floor of the House and indeed the happenings within our nation. God bless you all.